Welcome. You're listening to the I'm Wired to Inspire podcast, creatively engineered by Nicole, the inspiration specialist. I'm Wired to Inspire is a powerfully packed podcast filled with inspiration and encouragement to get you through your day. It's designed to inspire you to live your authentic purpose. Now, stay tuned for your host, Nicole, the inspiration specialist, on today's episode of I'm Wired to Inspire.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast. I hope you guys are doing well as you listen in today. And y'all, today I just wanted to, have a very transparent moment with you because I feel like many of you will be able to identify with the place that I'm in. I just been going through a lot of mental calisthenics lately, a lot of spiritual revelation, just a lot of very deep stuff that God has been taking me through. And I'm learning that because I literally am married to the Lord, and not in a weird earthly sense. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, I'm married to God for sure, first and foremost in my life because of the covenant aspect. I honor that covenant between me and my Father. And, I was just kind of sitting here thinking, I'm like, Lord, like I actually just got full. I started crying because I was like, God, this time around in my life, I want you to tell me what to do. Like, I don't want to include a bunch of people. I'm just tired of that. Y'all, I'm going to tell you, when I'm outside of the will of God, it literally feels like destruction. It literally feels like the world is literally kicking me in my gut. And I know that sounds so dramatic and it sounds so over the top, but I'm serious. It is such a horrible place to be in when you are just inundated with other people talking, other things happening. It's just too much, and I realized that when I started to make an effort to truly say, okay, God, this does not feel comfortable. I am not used to not including a million people in what I'm doing. I'm not used to moving this way and moving that way. When I get myself to that space, right? I realize that it's tough because that's usually God saying, I got to pull all of that stuff away from you. I got to break all that stuff down. I got to pull all of that stuff apart and really, really make it clear and plain for you so that you can hear me and what I want for you. I don't want you to constantly feel like you have to do things this way and you have to do things that way. I want you to know that if you do it my way, you're going to have the peace that surpasses all understanding. I know that it is extremely difficult when you've been operating a certain way for so long in your life and you're used to it. But isn't it more painful when you've been doing that and everything you desire consistently escapes you? I call today's episode The Great Escape. How many of us are consistently doing something and we are consistently getting no result? I'm not talking about waiting and working towards something and God is doing nothing about it and it's really a matter of faith. But how many of us know that there could be things that we're doing, maybe an approach to something, or people may have said, hey, listen, did you try doing it this way? And maybe your hard head is saying, no, I don't want to do it like that. That ain't what God told me. But listen, sometimes God uses people. Sometimes God uses people to come in and show us a better way so that we can attain the promise, so that we can get to the things that he truly desires for us. And I'm sitting here like, God, like, thank you for giving me entry into the great escape. I feel like, y'all, when you get to that place where you know your worth, you understand who you are, but you also understand on a greater level that God is just trying to do something better and greater in you. For those of you who are listening and you are concerned about a relationship and they think you're selfish, they think you're self-centered, guess what? Maybe 5 times out of 10, they might actually be right. And I know you probably didn't expect me to say that, but they might be right. You might be in a situation where, you literally feeling like you got to pour everything out. You got to empty your tank for that person. And you know how they talk about relationships are 50-50 in marriage and all of that? But real married people tell you relationships are not 50-50. Because you will go through a season, multiple seasons in marriage where you're giving 100%. And that person may just be in a place and they walk in their personal life, individual life outside of the marriage where they don't have a whole lot of capacity to give a lot of stuff. And then the season may change where they're going back and forth. Like, boom, you get 50, I got 50. Boom, boom. Everything is working in tandem. And that doesn't mean that anything is wrong with the marriage. But y'all, when we get with people, we're still individual people. You know, it's no different when you join a new job or join the workforce with people that you've never met before. They're already operating in a system that was there before you got there. So now you have to adapt and you have to figure out what it is you need to do. You may get there and you may not understand the inner workings and how they do things, right? But essentially, you have to look at the bigger picture and say, hey, listen, maybe for the first 6 months, I might be the one giving 20, not because I don't want to, but where I'm at as an individual in terms of understanding and executing this information properly, it's taking me a little longer to attain it and understand it. It's taken me a little while. So if that pertains to you in any of those situations, and it doesn't have to be those type of scenarios, but any kind, I want you to be encouraged. And I want you to pray and ask God, Lord, I'm ready for the great escape. I want to escape anything that has kept me connected to the things that you didn't want me to do. I want to escape the old mindset. You might be a grown boy. You might be a grown woman listening a grown girl, excuse me. You might be in a place where God is showing you things about yourself that you don't like. You might be the selfish one. You might be the needy one. You might be the mean one. You might be the bullheaded one. You may be the one with the ego. You may be the one carrying the offenses. You can be any of these things. But right now, y'all, in order for us to really embark on the great escape and to move forward into the next thing that God has for us, we have to be willing to take those shots. We have to be willing to take that, hey, listen, you got to work on this. This is not a good thing. For some of us, he's showing us how to communicate better. He's showing us that we may have to do something and take some stuff we may not want to take a while. Y'all, this is biblical. Remember when they hung Jesus on the cross, he had to take some licks and they beat him and drag. It was just horrible. And let that be symbolic of you with the licks. And I'm not saying that, I am not encouraging at all that life is just to be sad. And you have to always be beat down in order for things to be great. I absolutely disagree with that. But what I am saying to you, and like I say it all the time, hundreds of times at this point, it is much like pregnancy. When you are pregnant, you have to go through so many stages with your body. Even your spouse is not just the person that's pregnant. But if you have a spouse and that man is there with you, listen, he could be taking I see it all the time. My girls are pregnant. And they're like, oh, my God, like I'm so mean. I'm so disgusted. I'm fat. I'm blah, 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 blah. And then the spouse has to deal with that. Like she could be chomping him off, like going off on him. You know what I'm saying? So even he's affected by it, but he still has to say, woosah, let me take a deep breath. I know she's pregnant. Let me chill. She going off on me, but he's not in her shoes. He doesn't feel the uncomfortable feeling of walking and laying down and just having to breathe differently and move differently and just do everything differently for those 9 months. So I say all of that to say to you, in order for you to really understand how we get into the great escape, it is not going to be easy and it does not feel great. Because oftentimes when we do have to examine ourselves, we usually have to go back and clean things up. Oftentimes when we examine ourselves, we have to go back and say, you know what? This is for the greater good of me. This is for the greater good, most importantly, in what God wants me to do. Because when I get me together and I'm on a greater level, then I can serve God greater. So I want to just say this before I go. If you are single and you are listening, I want you to know, As long as you continue to work on your spirit, work on your body, your mind, your soul, and everything in totality, you'll really get a chance to see God move for you in a different way, because while you're single, you don't have access to certain things anymore when you become married. You can't hang out with your single friends all the time. All of that's going to change. So where you are right now, please rest assured, if God is opening that door for the great escape and he's allowing you to escape old mindsets and old methods, and you know in your mind you're preparing for marriage and you don't want to be single forever, then go ahead and embrace it. I told you guys, if you've been listening to the podcast the last couple of weeks, please, if you haven't, go catch up. And sidebar, it should be much better from yesterday and the day before and even today, I believe. You should not hear a lot of popping and the P's, and I was trying to get all of that stuff worked out because it was just sounding terrible, and I'm so sorry for that. I'm switching up all of the things that I'm using to record for you guys. But anyway, with that being said, there's so much work that God will show you about yourself that needs to be done so that you can be whole and happy in a relationship. He's going to let a person see who you are. You're going to see who they are. But God wants you to see who you are through his eyes now. He wants you to really break down and get to the space of, I need to do better. Or this is good. Okay, I'm going to keep cultivating this, but I really need to work on this part. I don't know how I would function if somebody was in my space every day and I had this type of attitude. It just may not be a good look. So keep that in mind if you're single and if you are connected, if you are partnered up and married. Think about where you are in your situation. I'm not married, but for what I'm about to say, I actually don't have to be, because it's not necessarily about being married with rings, but it's about being committed. You can be committed to a friendship. You can be committed to a career. Commitment in and of itself just means that you are, binding, I guess, yourself to that situation, and you're giving full commitment to it. So if you are in that situation and that's what you are doing in your marriage and you are working on those things, you have to ask God, is there a great escape within my current situation? Not to escape my marriage, but are there any things in me that you're trying to show me that's keeping me in bondage within my marriage? So it's causing me not to enjoy my marriage. It's causing me to feel like everything is always so tough and I'm striving so much. What is it that God is trying to show you? Because trust me, there's a great escape even in that. Because if you can escape the mindset that causes you to constantly question your situation, question yourself, question that person, then God could be opening that door so that you can realize the freedom you have and giving it all to him. And you know what? He might come back and say, hey, listen, stop talking to me about them. I'm hearing your prayers. I hear you. But not one time have you said, what's wrong with me? Lord, show me myself. Show me the log in my own eye. So whatever it is and however he's doing it, be encouraged. But make sure as you are planning this great escape and God is preparing you for it, that you ask him, what's wrong with me? Show me myself. And it might be stuff you don't like. And like I said, when you go through this process, because I'm going through it myself, you may have to call some people and apologize. You may actually come to the realization, that some of the things that you stood for, it was the right thing too. It's not going to be all bad. You're going to find out, though, where you are, that God is really changing and moving things for the better. He's moving things in a different direction for you. So for those of you who have listened today, and if you feel like this has affected you in any way, let me know. Because I feel like I haven't done a series in over a year, but I feel like I maybe need to do a series called The Great Escape. And I think it might be of some value. If you want that, please hit the comments, hit the email, let me know. And I will certainly work on that for you. But I just feel like that is something we need to address, because the enemy wants to keep us in bondage by ourselves and with other people. And that is just not God's perfect will for our lives. I'm wired to inspire. I hope you are too.
Thanks for listening to I'm Wired to Inspire podcast at I'mWiredToInspire.com. If you enjoyed the show, spread the word and be sure to hit the 5-star rating on iTunes. For more information on this podcast and inspirational products and services, log on to I'mWiredToInspire.com. And remember to live your authentic purpose. Thanks again, and see you next time.